I hope this is working. I think I screwed it up the first time, so hopefully this is working. If someone can just respond really quick and say if y'all can hear me or not, so I can make sure I'm doing this right. I guess I did it wrong the first time, so thank you for being patient. I do see some questions already up, so I'll go ahead and start with the first one. And if y'all are having a hard time hearing me or this isn't working right, just go ahead and send me a little message so I know. All right, first question, oh gosh, is about the Cowboys and how they're handling Greg Hardy. This is obviously a sensitive topic for a million reasons. I went through some crazy stuff in a past relationship a long time ago, so this issue hits close to home for me in a lot of ways. But also because my husband has been in the NFL for the past 4 years, and so we've kind of seen the other side of that. But I'll just say straight up, I think the fact that Greg Hardy is playing for the National Football League right now is absolutely absurd. And I think it sends a terrible message, not only to young women, but to young men, because I totally agree with Jerry Jones that indeed Greg Hardy is a leader. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that he's leading a lot of young men and young boys to see that at the end of the day, if you're really talented and you can make other people a lot of money, sometimes the rules don't apply to you, and we don't take things as seriously as we should. That being said, it's a really convoluted issue, and I'll be the first to admit that I don't have all the facts. I'm just going off of the amount I've read, the pictures I've seen, and just based off the pictures alone, I would say that's not a guy I would want. If I was running the NFL, I would want to be a part of any of my teams. So obviously it's a sensitive issue for a lot of different reasons, but the whole thing kind of makes me sick. And that's just being honest with you. But I wish the NFL could stand by. I mean, I know this last month in October, they were all wearing pink for breast cancer awareness and showing women that supposedly they really cared about women and what's going on with women, and the fact that a lot of women buy their tickets and their gear and all that kind of stuff. I think the best way to show that you care about women is to keep guys like that that commit heinous crimes where there's evidence of it out of your league. So obviously that was kind of a rambling response, but I hope that answered your question. I'll go on to the next one. Thanks, Jill, for asking. Okay. Sorry, I hope that was a pretty intense start. So hopefully I didn't scare anybody away. Jennifer, hi. How has my career changed since becoming a mom? Gosh, it's changed a lot. I would say the main way it's changed is I've made the decision to cut back. Before I had Scout, I was working just insane hours. I was on the road 5 days a week, every week, with a couple months off over the summer where I was still traveling and working, just not the 5 days a week kind of rigid schedule I had. But when I had Scout, I just decided, and I was fortunate enough to be able to make this decision financially, but that I was going to cut back and not do as much. So now I'm only on 2 flights a week, which is just been incredible to be able to spend that time with her at home. She travels with me most of the time, and she traveled with me every week last year, but I've definitely cut back now so that I can kind of have a better balance. I mean, everybody always talks about balance as a working mom, and I think working dads have to deal with that too, because you're always trying to balance in your head quantity over quality time and how all that works. But for me, it meant just deciding I wasn't going to do as much. So I got off Thursday night football and I took off basketball. So now I'm literally just doing college game day. And you know, having a kid changes your perspective in a ton of ways. But for me, at the end of every day, literally, I thought to myself, what do I want to be doing? And that was, yes, I want to be a part of this industry and sports broadcasting, but more than anything else, I want to be a great mom. I want to be the best mom I can be. And like I said, I'm fortunate enough to be able to spend that extra time with her. So I want to do that, especially while she's little. Once she goes back to school, I think back to school like she's been before, then things will probably change. But for these next couple of years, I'm definitely trying to cut back. But thanks, Jennifer, for that. Brittany, hi, Brittany. Brittany said, as a woman of faith, what role did that play in your journey up the ladder in your broadcasting career? Brittany, more than anything else, trying to stay true to your convictions or your faith, whatever those may be, for me meant saying a lot of no's at a time where I didn't really have other options or other opportunities. I mean, I got I shouldn't say a lot, I got a number of offers to do jobs or magazine type spread things when I was first starting in my early 20s that definitely would have put me on the map quicker, so to say, and I would have gotten more notoriety or whatever you want to call it, and more income. I mean, I was broke. I was living in my car for a little bit, so I definitely didn't have any money, but saying no to things that I felt like didn't portray me in the way that I think really any young woman should portray herself, but specifically for me, I just thought weren't a good representation of who I am. And so I had to make some of those tough choices early on, and it was rough when you knew, I was in credit card debt, trying to figure out how to kind of handle being an adult, and those kind of opportunities come. And I think for a lot of people, they say just do whatever opportunity comes to make money and get your name out there while you can. But I think that was the biggest thing that where my faith really came into a very practical decision. Do you take these jobs when you don't have one or not? So I hope that answered your question, but I had to learn to say a lot of no thank yous with a smile on my face, even though on the inside I was thinking, I really want to take this job. Next one from Shannon. When did you decide you wanted to pursue broadcasting? Did you work your way up from a local station, and what was your path to ESPN? I wanted to be a broadcaster, Shannon, since I was a little kid. I realized in, I think, the third grade that I wasn't good enough at sports to play professionally, because there was a girl in my class, Renee Kane, who was faster than me, and I'll never forget her name, because I remember thinking, if I'm not as fast as a girl at Madison Meadows Middle School, or Madison Simus Elementary School at the time, then I'm not going to be a pro. So I decided that being a broadcaster was the next best thing. I used to watch NBA Inside Stuff with Ahmad Rashad on Saturdays or Sundays, on the weekends. And I just thought that was the coolest job, to be able to interact with athletes and kind of share their stories and get to know them on a more personal level. So that was kind of always the goal. But I never majored in broadcasting or journalism or any of that. I was a politics, philosophy, and economics major for majority of my college career. And I didn't, I guess, technically work at a local station. I worked for the Flame Sports Network, which was really, when I was at Liberty, it was their own cable network that they had there while I was in school at Liberty University. But all our games aired on MASN, the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. So I got some exposure from that while I was still in school. And then my first job out of school was at Fox College Sports. So technically at a network, but it was just my grandma and my mom watching. But my path to ESPN, the shortened version of that is that I interned when I was living in New York City at 18 for 3 years, essentially. It was like an extended internship where I kind of became a research assistant. But I interned for the College Football Studio Show on ABC ESPN, and that's where I made connections there. And then after working for Fox for a few years, I started at Longhorn Network, which had just been bought by ESPN, and so they saw my work there at Longhorn Network. So I hope that explains it. It was kind of a roundabout way, but it was a non-traditional way of going about it in that job. So that's the cool thing for anybody who does want to go into that industry. I don't know, Shannon, if that's what you're looking into, but there are a million different ways to do it. There's not one path. So if anyone ever tells you there is, I would say they're wrong about that, because I've seen people do it in all different ways. I hope that answers your question. All right. Okay, let's go to Michael. Hi, Michael. With so many undefeated teams going into the season this year and more group of 5 programs finding themselves in the mix, do you think we are seeing more parity in college football? If so, do you think it will continue? I sure hope so. I am loving this year for a lot of reasons. One, I'm able to enjoy it a little bit more because I'm getting some sleep at night and all that. But in terms of the craziness or the parity in college football this year, I think it's great because this is the first year in a long time where pretty much everybody, some would say in the top 10, but I would say definitely in the top 6 or so, has a really good argument for making it to the college football playoff. There really isn't one team. You look back on years past, we've had a lot of years in college football where there was one team, usually Alabama or somebody like that, that was so far ahead of the pack that it was them and everybody else. There really isn't anybody like that right now. And that's why I'm excited that College Game Day is going to Baylor this week, just because, I mean, for us to go to Baylor at a time when those people are fired up that their undefeated team is not in the top 4. There's so many conversations to have, and everybody can give a good argument for, I mean, how are you going to argue against Clemson or Baylor or Ohio State right now? I mean, all the arguments are fair. And to me, that makes the conversation in college football so much more fun and exciting, because all these games, I mean, the next 3 weeks of games are going to be insane because the entire scope of the whole, I mean, the rankings are going to be completely different, most likely. And we really don't know what's going to happen. Even the experts, I mean, the experts had Auburn and Arizona State in the Final Four this year. And so it's just one of those years where you don't really know. So to answer your question, I think it will continue because I think the talent is being spread out more evenly across the country. And I think schemes are changing that. I mean, the speed at which these offenses are going now, the more teams pick up on that system, really what Art Briles has done, the more competitive you can be, because you don't have to have incredible guys across the board. If you go really fast and you've got a couple just freak athletes that you can kind of toss the rock up to. So yes, I hope that continues. I hope that answered your question. Okay, let's see. Brittany, what did you say? What do you think of the college football ranking system so far? The subjective eye test. Oh, the ever important eye test. Depends on how your eyes are and who you are, which is so hilarious to me. And this kind of goes to the last question, but I just think it's so funny when people use the eye test because they really mean their eyes. They don't necessarily mean that. I have been around too many guys who know football. I'm talking ins and outs, watch a lot of film, and can disagree about players, just like we've seen at the NFL level, scouts that disagree about who's going to be great and where a guy should be drafted. There are a lot of guys that have what I would consider football eyes that disagree about teams and players. And to me, that's what makes it fun, but that's what also makes it pretty crazy for this committee, because I mean, I would just love to be a fly on the wall in some of these committee meetings, because like the Alabama situation last week, I really had a hard time with, because at the end of the day, to me, whoever wins, now I'm talking in the Power 5 conferences, and I'm sorry to anybody who's a fan of Memphis or Houston or schools like that that have had this issue throughout the year. But if you're in a Power 5 conference and you win all your games, I just have a really hard time with you taking a backseat to Alabama, because Alabama has Nick Saban and everybody's impressed with what they've done in the past. So there's a whole, I mean, we could talk about that for days, but I think the eye test is just what it is. It's incredibly subjective, and you won't even get the experts to agree when it comes to the eye test. And I think sometimes that gets us in trouble, because the eye test ends up meaning reputation based on the past. And I do not think that schools like Baylor should be penalized because Alabama has a great history. And, you know, maybe in past years, Baylor's defense hasn't showed up in whatever big game. I don't think that should matter. I think this year is the only year that matters. So it gets a little convoluted. I hope that sort of answered your question. Okay. Justine. Hi, Justine. Do you ever face adversity as you worked your way up the ladder to get where you are today? What advice do you have for other girls with lofty career goals outside of the norm? The answer is yes. And, you know, I get asked a lot about being a woman in a male-dominated industry and the kind of struggles that are there. And I would just say this. Yes, we face different challenges, and there are always going to be ignorant people that say ignorant things. But I'll say this, knowing the men I have known that have also gone through this industry, it doesn't matter. One, it doesn't matter what industry, but it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you are going to face adversity. You're just going to, whether it's today or tomorrow. If you haven't faced it yet, it's coming. So I hope that doesn't scare you, or it doesn't sound too negative. But we all face it. That is just life. That's why in terms of raising my daughter, that's something that I want to help her understand at an early age, is how to handle adversity, how to handle things when they get difficult, not to shield her from anything difficult, but to try and give her some tools and help in handling it when it comes. So to me, in terms of having lofty career goals, I would just say first that if you think any job or title or amount of money or fame or any of that is going to satisfy your soul and make you feel like you have arrived and that you can kind of hang it up, I would just say from my experience, you're sorely mistaken, because you get to the top and there's nowhere else to look but back down. And a lot of times the top can be very lonely. So I would just say, not that there's anything wrong with having really great goals and, you know, a lot of things that you want to do in your career, and make those as crazy and as lofty as you want. I mean, to me, to be on College Game Day was so far beyond anything I thought I would do. I mean, gosh, I thought when I was a kid growing up, if I would have ever made it to cover my local Phoenix Suns team, then that would have just been as good as it gets. So I totally understand what it's like to have lofty goals and to think, you know, what if this happens or what if that happens? I would just say the most important two words my dad has ever told me in terms of my career is, then what? And I started using that in every area of my life. Like, so you get your dream job, then what? So you find your dream husband or your dream wife, then what? You know, if you're thinking this stuff is enough to satisfy you, sometimes it can be not worth the journey unless you really do appreciate the journey as you go. So I'm not trying to get preachy on you there. I just think I wish I would have gone back and just enjoyed the process more and not been so in a hurry to get, quote unquote, to the top, that I kind of missed out on the relationships and the struggle. That there is so much not only to be learned, but actually to be enjoyed during the struggle. So I hope that sort of answers your question. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm. Oh yeah, here we go. Sarah. We understand you're here on behalf of Xyience. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with the brand? Yes. Let me give you a little background in terms of how I connected with Xyience. Because if somebody would have told me a couple of years ago that I would be promoting an energy drink, I would have been like, really? Like, no, probably not. That's not something I would do. So when it was first brought to me and the idea was brought to me, I kind of just wrote it off in my head because I wasn't an energy drink person. And I told the people at Xyience this, I said, when I thought of energy drinks, I thought of like someone who was about to like rage, like some partier or someone who was in like, I don't know, cage fighting or like something really like not a mom. I didn't think of myself and, you know, the kind of lifestyle I live, and my husband didn't drink them. So I didn't think of them really connected with athletes. So that really wasn't my world. And any energy drink I'd had in the past honestly just didn't taste good. I always thought they tasted like sweet tarts, which I wasn't ever really a big fan of sweet tarts. So I didn't really like the energy drink taste. Fast forward, Xyience reached out and sent a pack of their energy drinks, the cherry lime one, which ended up being a great decision by them to send me the cherry lime, because I am obsessed with Sonic's cherry limeades and have been since I was a little kid. And so they shipped it to our house in San Francisco when we were living there, and I wasn't home at the time. But my husband Christian called and told me, and I was like, well, just try it. Will you let me know, if it tastes good? And I knew he would tell me the truth, because we've been through these kind of things before. And he tried it and loved it, and told me that he thought it tasted like cherry limeade. So anyway, I went back to San Francisco, tried it myself, and that really is what sold me, was that it just tasted really good. And I've always been kind of a latte girl. So I was looking for something. I mean, I probably calorie-wise and sugar-wise spend like half my calories of the day drinking these lattes. And so when I saw that it was no calories, no sugar, those 2 zeros were a big deal to me as a mom who was trying to get in shape and also needed some energy. And at the end of the day, it just tasted better than anything else I had before. So I drink it, Christian drinks it, Scout is not allowed. My entire extended family now drinks it. My brother lives in our guest house, and he's always coming over for more. So for us, it was just about finding a product, or really a product finding us, that we practically use. I mean, I drink it very regularly and try and bring it on the road with me. I'm trying to get them to create like travel size versions that I can get through security, because I can't get the whole can through right now. But that's kind of how it all started. And then since then, I thought their commercial idea was awesome. Usually commercials are super cheesy and, in my opinion, not very well written. And this one was fun and sarcastic and great. And I really enjoyed the time I spent with the whole staff and crew. And so I've really just enjoyed the whole process. Everybody's been great to me, and it's actually a product we use. So to me, I never want to do something that's disingenuous and, something we're not really using as a family. But if you looked at my fridge right now, you would see that we definitely do. So it's been a good thing. Let's see. My most embarrassing moment of motherhood. I have had many. I have changed this child's diaper in more ridiculous places. Traveling with a newborn was just insane. And most places I've learned don't have changing tables for babies. And so it's disgusting. Hand sanitizer is my best friend in the world, and I have it with me at all times. I've changed her on the top. People are going to judge me for this. Like putting the top of the toilet seat down on the top of in a plane. I mean, I have on the floor places. I think that's usually the worst. On the back of a truck once. When you're on the road and you don't have anywhere to change them, you got to do what you got to do. So I changed her the other day at a Starbucks in her stroller, because they didn't have a changing table in the bathroom, but people would come in and your baby's just like being like, there have been a million things, but I'm probably forgetting more because I've been so clueless. I mean, Christian and I both are kind of learning as we go. And luckily my sister has 5 kids, and then my mom had 4. And so I've got a lot of people around me that know what they're doing, but I do embarrassing things all the time. Let's see. Make sure I'm working this right. Jennifer. What surprised me most about motherhood? I think just the new perspective. I thought I had a pretty, solid worldview or perspective before, where I felt like I was balancing the importance of being the person I wanted to be and knew I should be, and also doing my job and caring about relationships and all that. But my perspective has changed so much from being a mom, just in terms of the way I view women and the things that I want her to learn about what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a productive member of society and how to learn to think. And, you know, it just makes you rethink everything. I mean, I question everything I say and do, and it really makes you be a lot more purposeful. So I would say kind of taking self-inventory has been the best part and most challenging part, because it's incredibly convicting. Let's see. Russ. Hi, Russ. How do you deal with sideline reporter criticism? Many men, not you, good to know, complain on social media by the water cooler that some of the content isn't great. How do you meet the challenge of getting the audience timely info or getting real answers from coaches? Real answers from coaches is tough. And I've seen both men and women try to do it. And let me tell you, especially the sideline environment where you have a few seconds to get something meaningful from a coach who doesn't want to talk to you in the first place. So that to me can be the most difficult thing. And I don't really think that is about being male or female. I think that's about having a relationship with the coach where he respects you and knows even if he's fired up and angry about something that you're not coming at him to expose him or to catch him up or anything like that, that your intentions are good. So that can only be developed through relationships. In terms of criticism, you know, it's funny to me, the whole like you didn't play thing that you hear all the time, because I grew up in a generation where all the girls I knew play sports. I mean, I had a couple of friends that weren't really into sports, but it was just, I mean, that's a testament to the women who had gone before us, because I never thought about a glass ceiling or I'm not allowed to play with the guys, to be honest. And this really isn't arrogant, because this is where I peaked. Like in middle school, I was better at sports than all of the guys that I played with at lunch. So I actually ran into a guy not too long ago that showed me the scar he still had on his leg from when I kicked him in the shins playing soccer in like 5th grade. So I guess I shouldn't be proud of that. But I don't think that criticism should be taken to heart, because I think there are just angry people who want to find something negative about everyone. And being close with some of the guys in the industry, guys get it too. I mean, criticism isn't just directed towards women, and even from a physical standpoint, it's not directed just towards women. The guys I work with get comments about their clothes and their hair and their makeup, strangely, all the time. So I don't take it personally as being a woman. I also do reserve the right to respond sometimes. I know people always say, don't respond to them, don't respond. Sometimes I think it's fun. So you try not to take it too personally. Whenever it's about my family, I do get crazy, but when it's about me, I try not to. Let's see. Being a mom and wife who commits to remaining healthy, not to mention a pro athlete husband, I'm sure you're concerned about what goes into your body. Is Xyience something that you feel comfortable recommending as a source of clean energy for anyone? Yes. And that was a big deal to me. I wanted to know what was in it. Because obviously as a mom, but also as someone who has a public job, I would never want to steer people a direction that just wasn't good for them. Now, I'm not having like 5 to 10 of these a day. I wouldn't recommend that, but in moderation, for me, it's been great. I feel great afterwards. I do feel energized, and I feel like it works better for me than coffee did before. So for me, it's been great. For Christian, it's been great too. He uses the same thing, or drinks the same thing. So, and he was super skeptical. Like you said, just being a pro athlete, everything that you put in your body is so important. So we did some research and found out what was in it, and both feel really good about that being a regular part of our nutrition, if you will. But again, it's all about moderation and kind of knowing what works for your body, because obviously everybody's different. Let's see. Brittany, what advice do you have for young women going to visible careers when it comes to social media? I wish I could go back and stay off of it. Not like just completely be, not a part of the social media community, but in terms of seeing what people said about me, it's so hard because especially when you're first starting your career, you want to know what people think of you or what the response is when you're doing a public job. And I think that's only natural. That's human nature to want to know kind of the feedback, or do people approve of what you're doing, or do they disapprove, or do they like me? Do they not like me? Like, I get that. But I wish I could go back and not, search my name. When I was in my early 20s, I would, especially then when I was first starting out, because I just didn't know how this whole thing worked, and social media was so new. But you allow people to speak what you take as truths into your life that really can impact you in different ways. So, some people can read that stuff and not even care, but I think for me in my early 20s, that was tough. To read things, especially about my physical appearance, I hadn't even thought of, that were just incredibly negative and mean, that really there was no point in me reading that. Now, at the same time, I would say that if you get a good feeling from people saying nice things about you, then you have to also know that you're going to get a bad feeling when people say bad things. You can't take one without the other. I hate when people say, like, don't listen to the negative things people say. Well, if you're going to take the positive things to heart, why are some people's opinions more important than others? And I would say for me, it was about developing a smaller circle of people who those people's opinions, whether good or bad, were the ones I was going to listen to. So for me, that's been like a couple close friends, my family, and then Christian. I've kind of chosen those people as like my social media, an old school version, but the things that they think and say, I kind of take to heart more than what some random guy in Kansas or whatever thinks about me that doesn't know me. But it can be a very difficult thing, and I think a lot of people aren't honest about how much it does bother them and how much they look it up, because a lot of us do. Let's see, competition can be a touchy subject amongst women. Do you consider yourself competitive, and have you tried to compete gracefully with other? Yes, I am competitive. I've always been competitive. That was just, I think that can be a good thing. That can make each other better. I was just telling my husband, when I run, there's a little path by our house, and when I run so much faster if there's someone going fast in front of me, because I just want to keep up. So I think the main thing is to keep picturing everyone around you, especially the other women, because this can be a negative thing with women, to picture them as not only beautiful and important and all those things, but also insecure. And I'm not talking about them being insecure across the board, but we all have our insecurities. And I think sometimes we forget that maybe someone that we think looks perfect and looks like they have it all together, that they're insecure too. And that's really helped me, as the more I've seen other people's, the way they're vulnerable or a little insecure, unsure of something about themselves. It reminds me that we're all human, and that whatever competition is there, if it's not spurring you on to just be better, if it becomes a jealousy thing, that's when you have to kind of shut it down. Do you enjoy the "You Had One Job" segment with David Pollack? I've read some articles calling it mean-spirited. The first couple of weeks I heard that a little bit, people saying that they thought it was just mean. But we have changed. That was really important to me, for it not to be a segment where we're like, you suck, and here's a video of how you suck. I wanted it to be a funny thing, like even making fun of us sometimes, like things that I thought were very lighthearted. A lot of times we do make fun of officials or referees, and that, to me, that's pretty fair game, the stuff that we've put up. But I don't want to be a part of, like, after the Michigan punter thing happened, I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want us to show guys that, like, I'm not trying to kick a man when he's down, basically. So we haven't done that. So I really don't think it is mean-spirited now. I think it's fun. And I hope that people who watch it now, I mean, there are always going to be people that have a problem with things, but I don't really think that this is something that kind of kicks guys when they're down. Let's see. What is your routine like from Friday through Saturday when College Game Day wraps? Friday I do College Football Live and then a bunch of Sports Center segments, and then go to bed as early as I can because we have a really early wake-up call on Saturday depending on where we are. And then that's from 9 to 12 Eastern. Then I usually get out right after. I used to stay for the games, but now that I'm a mom, I get on the first flight I can. You've become a pro at traveling with a child. What tips do you have for other moms? I think for me, the best thing that helped me was just the mentality of this is not going to go perfectly. Like, I think when you are traveling with a young child and you try and plan everything out perfectly and, they're not going to make noise and they're going to sleep at this time. And I just threw all that out the window and decided if she cries from the moment we get on the plane to the moment we step off, that's going to suck, but those hours will go by and we will move on. Like, stressing out only makes it worse to me. And especially, Scout was on 95 flights her first year on Earth. So I didn't have an option. If I was going to be stressed about traveling, I was going to be stressed all the time. So that, really kind of forced me to have the mentality of someone that was just going to kind of go with whatever. But in terms of tips, like so much of it depends on the kid. Like, Scout slept on a lot of flights and I totally lucked out on that. So I don't want to give someone advice saying, well, this works, she fell asleep. I just think she was probably exhausted from traveling constantly with her crazy mom. So there were a lot of different products and stuff we use. I'm going to do a blog post soon about the things that were helpful, but I think the main tip was just deciding not to be stressed and going into it thinking whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to laugh about it. And it's going to be over in a couple hours. I think sometimes it can get so overwhelming when you start thinking about people next to you getting upset or all that. So I kind of just threw all that out the window. Do I get to choose topics and segments for College Game Day? Yeah, a lot of times. The research and the prep is different for every week. Sometimes it's basically given to me. We don't have prompters or scripts or anything, but sometimes basically the concept is given to me and they say, go with this. Sometimes it's me on my own coming up with something. So something I would definitely say is if you're trying to do more of this kind of, don't be afraid to give ideas. We all give up dumb ideas. I hate when people say there's no dumb idea. There are a lot of dumb ideas. But just don't be afraid of someone saying that's a dumb idea. All right, so they thought it was dumb. I had an idea when I was at Fox College Sports to use Twitter on the sidelines. It had just come out, and my boss at the time, I won't name his name, but he said, that tweeter thing, that's a direct quote, is just a fad. And so he told me it was a dumb idea. Turns out now they use it on Monday Night Football. It wasn't a dumb idea. He thought it was a dumb idea. There's nothing wrong with that. He didn't see that there was any use for it at the time. So instead of stopping bringing up ideas to people, I just realized not everybody, is at the same place in terms of what they're thinking and what they think works. So don't be afraid to pitch stuff. Okay. How do you keep romance alive when you and your husband are frequently apart? We're apart a lot, but we also talk a lot. I think just keeping that constant communication, it really helped for us because our relationship started long distance. So that's really all we've ever known is a long distance marriage. But we also definitely take time to do things that we enjoy. We have planned out times to just hang out. We literally schedule stuff like that to make sure that we are spending that kind of time together, because there really is no substitute for just time to chill together and talk about whatever and do the things that you enjoy together. So that's why I tell people just marry someone where you have similar interests. Christian and I love the same thing. We have some things that, are different, but at the end of the day, we both want to hang out and do the same kind of stuff. So it works out well. Outside projects. I've got a couple of things going on. In the process of writing a book, that's kind of been a slow process, but I've been super busy. And yes, the website will be, all of that is going to be this spring. I decided to take off this like winter, springtime to work on all these kind of things. So you'll hear a lot coming March, April-ish, but this coming year. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. Over the last decade, it seems the quarterback, wide receiver positions dominated offenses, but for the past couple of seasons, we've seen a resurgence of great running backs. This is pointing to a trend of going back to more traditional run-based offenses. I don't think so. I think it's just kind of a new version of a lot of the spread, hurry up stuff we've seen. I don't think it's necessarily going back. I think they're just finding ways to use running back, especially running backs that can catch. If you have a child or know someone who has the speed and the strength and power and quickness of a running back, but has some hands too, I mean, there's never been a better time because they are using guys in all different formations and motions, and there's so much going on. Offenses are getting so complex. They are running, fewer different technically plays, but disguising things and using guys in technically traditional positions in non-traditional ways. You're seeing more and more of that now, both in college football and the NFL. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Chip Kelly and the stuff he's tried to do in the NFL and how that kind of affects things. But a lot of coaches are getting stuff from high school football right now too. So I love watching how all of this is progressing and changing as we go. But to me, that makes it more fun because I don't want to watch a 9-6 LSU Alabama game. I know some people are into that, but I mean, at least get me to 20 points. I need a little bit more scoring than that. But I do love the running back position. I love to see guys that are kind of traditional in their strength and kind of the way they approach the game. I just want to see some people score a little more than that. Last one. Oh, you know what? I think I kind of answered this already, but I'll just say really quick that I do think it's an even or level playing field in terms of between men and women. I think sometimes a lot of women don't realize the difficulties that men also go through. Like, yes, I probably get more comments about the way I look or, being fat or ugly or whatever than maybe a guy like David Pollock does, but they hear it too. I mean, if you look at these guys' social media accounts, it's a pretty fair game. Like, people are angry at people. It's not just women. And yes, there are some guys that can't handle a woman in sports, but that is so old school. Guys like that are just, I don't know. I don't have many polite things to say because that's their own insecurity. But I do feel like it's a pretty level playing field. There are some areas where I think more and more women are going to get more and more talented and educated in certain areas of sports media. And so we're going to see more and more women, but that's more just about experience and the amount of time that women have been in this industry. So I think it's a great time to be a woman in sports. Yes, you're going to deal with a lot of crap, but you know what? Any industry, and whether man or woman, you're going to deal with adversity. So I think I try not to make excuses from that perspective and just kind of brush stuff off and deal with it, because it's never the people who are more successful than you in your industry that are criticizing you for being a woman. There's a lot more there. But anyway, I hope that answered your question. I can answer one more and then I think I have to go. Yes, I do. Sorry. Who's been your favorite college football interview so far and why? I'm not just saying this because we're going to game day this week. I love talking to Art Briles. One, his accent is just the best. But two, he'll give you a real answer. I mean, if you saw what he said about Corey Coleman this week, ripping a guy's heart out and watching it stop beating or something. I mean, he says what he thinks. So he's always fun. My first interview ever was Dennis Rodman. How about that? I was 18 years old, and I had a one-on-one interview in person with Dennis Rodman. So anything since then has been easy. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed chatting. I love talking to you. I wish I could actually see your faces and interact and not just stare at myself, because that's kind of awkward and feels incredibly vain. But nice talking to you. And thanks to, seriously, I know it sounds cheesy, but thanks to Xyience for doing this. You've got to at least try it, because that's what I'd say. Once you try it, you'll make your own decision. But I'm telling you, it's become honestly a big part of what we do around here and how we stay energized and going throughout our day with a crazy 1-year-old. So anyways, thanks to Xyience, and hope you guys have a great day. And I think that'll do it. Bye.